start. In one, let's go. Hi everyone, thank you for being here with us today for this Doc Talk hosted by our dear friends at DMZ Docs, our partners now for the second year in a row, and hopefully for a long time, and hopefully, of course, reunited all together in person in Cannes for the next years to come. But still, although remotely and virtually, we are all together today for a really interesting and I think important panel in order for all of you filmmakers out there to have a better overview of some major documentary film festivals in Asia, which I think will be extremely beneficial for all the film community out there. So a big thank you to DMZ Docs, of course, for hosting this and having organized this panel, and for all of our speakers today, of course. Again, we have a very strong diversity of festivals represented today, and I want to sincerely thank you for doing this as part of Cannes Docs 2021. Very sincerely. Okay, without further ado, I will leave the floor to Young Woo Kim from DMZ Docs to moderate this session. Of course, if you are following this panel today, please do not hesitate to post some questions which can be addressed later on towards the end of the discussion. And I think that's it for me today. I will be back at the end of the panel again to thank you all. Yes, very much looking forward to everything you're going to tell us in the hour to come. Big thank you again, and see you in a bit. It's on to you, Young. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pierre. Thanks for joining us today with this beautiful and meaningful talk and discussion with 5 key documentary film festivals in Asia. Actually, this talk is about Asian documentaries and their home ground windows with as you can see, or one from Japan, one from Taiwan, one from Philippines, and one from Indonesia, one from Korea. So I think this is really meaningful, the meeting and the discussion with all you guys together. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us and all the participants here today. Actually, this talk is will be 2 parts. The first, introducing a documentary film festival in Asia, and then each festival's mission, and then visions, and then the challenges, and then what kind of challenges they are facing it now. And then the second part is the industry overview about the productions and the co-production with the global partners, and then a financial resource on and on. So it might, so it will be very interesting, and then actually, I think it's really beneficial to those who are interested in working with Asian partners and then Asian filmmakers through this discussion and special talk. So, and then after this discussion, we're going to have a short the Q&A session. So if you guys have any question or something, and then just text us, and then we share with all the key speakers here. So let's begin with, do I have to introduce each of you, or just you do your own introduction, right? So let's begin with DaangDokyu from Philippines. Sure, you start.
Okay, thank you, Young, and good morning to everyone watching from the festival, and good afternoon to everyone watching from our side of the world in Asia. It's an honor to speak, of course, alongside the key players here in Asian Documentary Film Festivals. We are actually a very young film festival, the DaangDokyu Film Festival from the Philippines. To translate the name of our festival, it's actually translated as the Docu Way. It's a festival of Philippine documentaries, both films that are made by Filipinos or films that are made about the Philippines. It was held last year online, but it was prompted earlier by the coming together of documentary filmmakers, including myself, Corinne Jimenez, Cara Magsanok Lekpala, and Baby Ruth Villarama around 2018. We started having like small group meetings. And then later on, we were to form what was to be the festival team, also coming from our colleagues in the documentary circle. The team was set up in 2019 and with the support of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts in the country. With that funding, we were confident that we could mount a festival somehow, even if none of us had actually much experience in festival organizing. The founding of the festival was prompted to a certain degree by an impatience due to the lack of spaces for the growing documentary community in the country, and also the lack of spaces to watch documentaries and much less to talk about it and exchange ideas. At the same time, it was also very timely because the Philippines was officially celebrating the centenary of Philippine cinema in 2019, which was marked by the milestone production of what's currently considered as the first Filipino-produced and directed feature film, Dalagang Bukid by Jose Nepomuceno in 1919. So we somehow wanted to make the documentary version of this Philippine cinema centenary celebration. The inaugural and possibly the only edition of the festival, because we don't have plans yet of repeating, although nothing is set in stone, was supposed to have been held physically on March 16 to 21, 2020. But exactly a week before the event, the Philippine government announced what was to be the beginning of a very long lockdown because of COVID-19 pandemic, which continues in varying degrees across the country up to now. So the festival plans were halted and we went on wait and see mode. Several months after the lockdown, the atmosphere in the country was not only dominated by the tension and crisis brought by the pandemic, but also by the heightening of the political situation. The atmosphere then around June 2020 was characterized by the narrowing space for freedom of expression and dissent with threats to media and dissenters, and the closure of the largest TV network in the country. There was also an ongoing human rights crisis under the Duterte regime, which started since he stepped up in power in 2016. So we thought we can't just take this sitting down. So like in a rush, we opened the festival in July of 2020 with the lone Philippine premiere of the documentary Aswang by Alex Aina Rumpak, which has then started to gain ground in the international festival circuit and was very timely given what was happening. So the festival was practically opened by one film. And we did it online in partnership with other organizations, Dakila and Activista Film Festival, and along with human rights advocates and the production team of Aswang. Later on, we decided that the main leg of the festival would happen months later, from September 19 to November 5. And we started preparing, like in a real rush, to create a dedicated microsite that we created from scratch. I don't know if it was a wise decision, but in the end, we learned a lot of lessons. So the festival happened for, I think, 5 weeks last year, purely online, which includes programs of films as well as live talks and events. The DaangDokyu program then highlighted the function of documentaries as a social education resource. So we created a thematic programming regardless of length, regardless of acclaim or popularity. we thought it wasn't going to be a competition. We really wanted to introduce the documentary as something that the public in general and not only film enthusiasts can enjoy and draw inspiration from, or draw what do you call this, use or function from. Our program was divided into themes that we thought were relevant or continuously, perennially relevant to different discourses. The themes were ecology, nation, taboos, localities, and future. So every week we had like a whole bunch of films under a specific theme. And then we opened the program with a commemoration of the Declaration of Martial Law with a documentary, a Canadian documentary, which was done about the Philippine Revolution after the dictatorship. So it was a 1988 documentary that made its very first official premiere. So parang ano siya, it's a post, what do you call this, post-release premiere. This film had been circulating for a long time in the country, but in alternative modes of distribution, but it was never officially premiered. This was A Rustling of Leaves by Canadian filmmaker Nettie Wild, along with films from the 1980s and 1990s, which showed the continuity of totalitarian tendencies in the country. Along with the festival, we also launched the DaangDokyu Book, which was one of the key parts of our vision. The doc book was a collection of essays. Of course, it was also the festival program, but it was at the same time a collection of essays from key players of the documentary community, also the what do you call this, film critics, academics in the country. No such effort had been done before. So we thought that it was somehow a responsibility of our generation of documentary filmmakers to pull together everything that had been previously unaggregated from the past 100 years. So we thought this is a good format instead of launching a festival that's of a more conventional nature or programming. We also found it imperative not only to piggyback on the existing audience of new independent cinema in the country, which is largely focused on narrative cinema, a narrative feature narrative cinema. So we also tried to pull together partnerships and audience from the big players of the broadcast and current affairs industry. It was the first time that the big TV networks came together for a particular event that's focused on film, because like there was a big demarcation. It was like a tall demarcation between cinema and TV. It's like the communities don't mingle. So we tried to pull together the different players of documentary, whether in TV or in cinema. And we also tried to reach out to major universities in the country. In fact, the premier university, University of the Philippines, was our major partner because we thought that students and the academic sector is really like a big priority in terms of our audience approach. And also we partnered with nonprofit and advocacy organizations because, as I said earlier, we wanted to focus also on the function of documentary as a social education resource. So we wanted the program to somehow, what do you call this, like bounce forward, roll forward, especially if universities or the organizations find titles or films that they think align very well with their advocacies or functions. So that's it. The effort in the end was largely successful, save for some hiccup. But as I said, until now, we are still undecided whether it's going to be a one-off festival or something that will repeat in 2 years, 5 years, and even another 100 years.
Actually, I remember like 2 years ago during Cannes at the pavilion of Singapore and the Philippines, actually we're sitting with the Monster and then the Lijardino together, and then you guys are talking about the first ever documentary film festival in the Philippines or something, and it's been 2 years, and then because of the Corona, like but actually I hope the physically able to happen next year, then we can all join you guys there next year. So like a long history is like it's like 10 minutes for a tour. So this is too long. So this is kind of a bad case. So keep it like around 5 minutes. Otherwise, I'll just cut it off. Okay. So next time, next one, DMZ Docs. Actually, we have a new programmer join us, the Jin Seok. So okay, 5 minutes, please.
Okay, so I'm Jin Seok Kang. Nice to meet you guys, and I'll try to do my best to make a good case. Yeah. So thank you, Young. And as Young introduced, I'm a newly joined programmer of the 13th edition of DMZ Docs, which will be held on coming September. Yeah. So here I briefly introduce our mission, the DMZ Docs mission and vision here. DMZ Docs has two parts, two sides. One is festival side, and the other is industry side. And as a documentary film festival, so we aim to be a significant platform in Asia where outstanding documentary projects introduced and talented creators and the players discovered and connected. Yeah. And so for this, we welcome every documentaries and we aspire toward one of the leading and dynamic film festival and key industry hub in Asia. And we hope that best documentary films showcase through DMZ Docs. And we also run DMZ industry to connect global players of documentary industry and to support promising projects. We have built the supporting system that you can say the participating projects can be supported according to their own stage, from development, production, post-production to release. And matching and pitching opportunities are also offered through DMZ industry. So the 13th of DMZ Docs will be held in coming September, as I mentioned. So we are continuing to monitor the COVID-19 situation. And unfortunately, there is the increase in cases associated with the Delta variant at the moment, which is very worrisome. So in this situation, we are going to go both with on-site and online screenings this year. So fortunately, we had an experience to hold on-site events without any infection cases last year. So this year's online screening will be, I can say that another challenge for us this year, and we are trying to find way how to figure out this. I think that's all I prepared. Is it good case?
Very good. Yes. Okay. Let's move on to. Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's move on to the Taiwan TIDF.
Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Wood, the program director of the TIDF. I've tried to be a better model for this talk. Yeah. Just for a short introduction of our festival, actually our festival was founded in 1998. And at that time, a lot of filmmaker, professor, and curator were inspired by Yamagata International Documentary Film Festival. And they learned a lot from there and think maybe we should have our own documentary festival. So they tried to get a sponsor from the government. So actually our budget is 99% from Ministry of Culture. So I would say that one of our mission is to spend the money out and use it in a good way. So we try to build a platform as pure as possible to promote independent documentary. So But actually, in these years, the festival was belonged to Taiwan Film and Audiovisual Institute, and we tried to build many programs to expand the definition and texture of documentary. So, of course, we selected traditional documentary, but also documental films, video art, video installation, and even documentary theater. So we try to, make the festival as colorful as we can. And also another, I think, unique special platform is we are more concerned about independent films in Chinese area. I mean, like in Hong Kong, China, Taiwan, even in Singapore, Malaysia. We try to support the independent filmmaker who can make their own film in Chinese-speaking area. So that's I think that we try to use this platform to develop our personality of the festival. Yeah. And also my colleague Wan Ling, maybe she can add more detail.
I think like Wood said, being a biennial actually put us in a different dimension as opposed to other film festival in the world, as we have different time schedule for planning our edition. We have 2 years. Of course, we do tour in Taiwan and around the world as well. But that gives us more time to think about our program, to delve deeper into each program, do more research. And I guess the funding comes from the government without too much restriction, gives us the liberty to explore, like we said, the boundary or the limit of nonfiction creativities in filmmaking. So I think that's our mission to expand this. And we are more of a audience festival, meaning that we don't really have an industry section. But we do focus on connecting filmmakers within the Asian region. I think that's our main goal and what we're trying to do. And our coming edition is in next year in May, and the call for entry will start in September.
Thanks. Okay. Next is Yamagata. Yes, one of the most important and reputation documentary film festival in Asia. Our dear Asako, please.
You're too kind, Young. Don't compliment us too much. Yes, I'm coming from Japan. My name is Asako. I've been working with the festival for about almost 30 years now. Yamagata is a town and region in northeastern Japan. And 30 years ago, when we first started out introducing creative documentary to and from the world, it actually took a full day to travel here from Tokyo by train. It was so far away. And the area is known for rivers and mountains and good simple food and great sake and beautiful nature and spiritual traditions and culture, and much more than commerce and industry. And maybe that's why our festival is how it is. I think our strength is it lies in our distance from Tokyo and the big cities. And there's a special aura that forces people who come here to switch mindsets and to turn their cinephile appreciation mode on and to leave the hustling and marketing behind. And so I think the meetings that happen here are quite, there's an innocence to them, like purity, that like what Wood said maybe. And even, the business people, the NHK buyers and the distributors who come here can watch films with a fresh eye, and they actually make a lot of purchases, here because of that innocence of being, I think. It's a really good atmosphere here. But I think Young asked us to talk a little bit about the pandemic, and I can tell you that we are really being tested this October because it will be our first edition since the outbreak. We are every 2 years, like TIDF. In Japan, the Delta variant is acting up again, and just yesterday there was a really high surge in numbers, and the 4th emergency was just announced by the Japanese government. And in addition, statistics predict that the Tokyo Olympics will worsen the situation. And so all the fall festivals in Japan are now like holding their breath and really facing difficult challenges now. And in Yamagata, we understand that online streaming can really let us reach a bigger and wider audience, but we've actually been very slow to embrace it. And we've only started, some programs in the educational field and for younger people. It's because the festival experience is not really an extension of everyday life. We don't want it to be. It's a very special week of very high intensity, and it can facilitate. I mean, in the past 30 years, we've seen how they've been life-changing experiences or meetings or discoveries, and people, meeting at Yamagata have started to make films together or collaborate in different ways, or people have found Kawase Naomi found her protagonist in Yamagata. People have found their producers here. People have fell in love and gotten married here. Ha ha ha. And it's a place where, especially the filmmakers, who've been working for many years on a film, can meet an audience for the first time often. So these are the values that we hold very dear, and we're really grappling with this dilemma as we are trying to prepare for October right now. So it's kind of not a promotional presentation, but that's Yamagata from me to you right now. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, if the Olympics happen, and then should be no problem for Yamagata, and then I'm ready to go. So I'll see you there this year. I really hope. After getting a vaccine, right? Okay, let's go to Jakarta. Yes, Anita, please.
Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. I'm Anita from FFD. So FFD was founded in 2002 in Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Yogyakarta is a city of education, culture, and art. And it is important to note that the wave of democratization by the Reformation in 1998 has opened up democratic space marked by the blooming of press freedom. So the documentary film production had increased, but unfortunately, the space of exhibition has not expanded much. Television also gave space for documentary, but many documentary didn't fit their format. So in 2002, FFD was founded as a response to that situation. FFD initially had a goal to provide opportunities for young people to study documentary film, and also to be appreciation space of documentary film among young people. Since from 2002 until 2013, FFD ran independently, and we start receiving funding from the government after 2013. And we have some program to increase the capacity of knowledge and reference and technical capabilities that needed in a good documentary production. Such we organize workshop like school doc for primary school and high school student, master class in an effort to provide space for discussion and consultation for international documentary filmmakers. We invite a case speaker and mentor from abroad. Also, we have Asia Doc by Doc Monday. It's like creative storytelling workshop that we also collaborate with French Institute, also Taiwan Film Institute, Prudent Pictures, and so on. We also have a film critic program, a discussion and exhibition. For the exhibition, we have regular screening every month, and also film festival once a year in November and December. And this pandemic situation has challenged us. At the moment, we are having lockdown because the cases are increased, especially with the Delta variant. And to find an alternative way to physical gathering, especially with the uncertain situation and how the government handles COVID in Indonesia, one of strategy that we use, also many of us use, is presenting the website as the festival destination. We optimize some online platform to present the festival program. We see that this opportunity to reach a wider public audience without geographical boundaries. So people from other city, other islands in Indonesia or other countries don't need to come to Jogja to attend FFD. Although we still have offline screening in Jogja, we organize with health protocol and limited number of audience. Besides a program that I mentioned previously, this year is 20th edition of FFD, and we are working on online directory and library of Indonesian documentary films. We think that it's a good investment for ecosystem of Indonesian documentary film.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Okay, yes, wow, it's like super accurate. I mean, I think we are really good, smooth, and I mean, yes, actually, by time, sure. I mean, yes, really good. Okay, let's move on to the second part. I think we'd love to take this time to share the information and the current status about documentary filmmaking in your country. It's more like an industry side. I mean, actually, can we see any dynamics and then more like game-changing moments in your country in the documentary filmmaking, like OTT and then all like online platform, and then number of documentary filmmaking increasing. So, can we tell the future of the Asian documentary is promising? I mean, I love to navigate what is going on in your in the country in a documentary filmmaking. So actually, everybody talking about Indonesia is it's the rising of Indonesian cinema now. So is it like the same in Indonesian documentary community there? Can you share your experience, Anita?
Yep. Start from 1998, the Indonesian film production has increased. It's because film communities are growing, film schools are growing, number of cinema has expanded, but there is a huge gap between narrative or fiction and documentary. So from the data that we have from the last 3 until 4 years, production of fiction feature length is more than 50 films every year, which for documentary is between 5 to 10 films. So it's a huge gap of number. With the short fiction is more than, for fiction is more than 300 films, and for short documentary it's between 80 to 100 films every year. And in the last 20 years, only 8 feature-length documentary went to the cinema, which is like for fiction film, it's a lot every year in the cinema. So there is a huge gap between fiction and documentary. The rest, they are screened in television or in international festival, also festival in Indonesia like FFD, also online platform. We have some local online platform that some filmmakers send their film there, and also YouTube, for example, and the screening also like using community space or art space. So the challenge and difficulties that filmmakers are currently facing in documentary filmmaking is that not much space for documentary, limited number of viewers, low media exposure, and limited government support. So communities in Indonesia play important role in documentary film scene. There are communities that consistently working and have concern in documentary films, such as Baileo Doc in Ambon, or Aceh Documentary in Aceh, Sumbawa Cinema Society, Cinema Lovers Community, or Forum Lenteng, Watchdog, and Indocs, and also like our organization FFD. So these communities do production, workshop, and also film screening. And to improve of a documentary quality and quantity of documentary film, many communities organize like a workshop, such as mentioned before, masterclass, creative storytelling, and have a partnership with international institution. And also in 2017, we have a Doc by the Sea that organized by Indocs, also if then, and they have obtained international co-production, broadcast commission, acquisition or cash funding, distribution or opportunities for filmmakers to pitch their project at international forums. So the co-production are still very little, but it's growing. And in general, we have a huge number of population, like 250 million. It's huge audience, huge market, many talented filmmakers, and yeah, but we still need a lot of support, and we still have a lot of homework.
Yeah. But like people are saying that Indonesia is next, like next like one of the leaders, in Asian cinema. So we'll see. And I think we hope to see more the documentary, feature documentaries coming from Indonesia. Okay. Next, Japan, Asaka, please.
Yes, thank you, Young. Well, Japan has a really long history of documentary making, and even today it has a very strong theatrical cinema distribution record. It kind of falls in the category of creative, art house cinema, because we do have a network of independent art house cinemas around the country that show fiction, art house fiction cinema, as well as documentary. And so, dozens of, I don't know, more than 50 to 70 documentaries a year are, shown in the cinemas in Japan. But I think that really doesn't really help the filmmakers realize that there's actually an audience out there, or there's funding out there. And that's probably why the Japanese filmmakers are very insular compared to other Asian countries. I think the Japanese filmmakers are often content with showing their films within Japan and not really reaching out to international markets as much as Indonesia or Korea or Taiwan or the Philippines. I myself have been trying to push for that, and some films have been recently. Last year, Odoriko. This year, co-production with France, Nude at Heart with Arte, has been is being just being launched, and I hopefully quite successful. And that kind of international exposure definitely helps the filmmaker open the mind and change, discover new ways of telling stories, I think. So it's a really good thing. But I wanted to say something, on this forum, I don't know what you all feel in other countries, but I think social media is really going to change the future of documentary, especially in Japan. Japanese people in general have been very camera shy, over the years. Especially after, even since the 70s, but even after. And they're not very expressive on camera and et cetera. People say, Western people tell me often that the Japanese are probably the most difficult Asian people to film in terms of documentary. But increasingly with the spread of social media, the people who are in the films who are becoming very wary of how their footage or their portrait is being made. And I find that responsible filmmakers are also becoming very, very concerned that if their film, for example, is co-produced and shown internationally, and if it does go into, online, for example, it means that the image can be, present forever and ever, in perpetuity. So this is not a fiction film, but this is a documentary of a moment, someone's, real life. And so I think a lot of responsible filmmakers will start to move away from documentary and try to, because the pressure and the responsibility of holding in, of making a film that can change somebody's, life in the future. This is very tricky, and the right of portrait and the awareness of people's self-image is really going to change documentary. I hope that the future of documentary does not mean, more celebrity films and artist films and films about people who want to promote themselves, but ordinary people. But yeah, at the same time, I think this move towards streaming and online distribution is really going to make people worried. So that's just something I want to throw out. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's pretty similar, the situation in Korea. I think we are also, pretty much getting a similar. Wow. Okay, Taiwan. Yes, please.
Yeah, maybe you know that the martial law was cancelled in 1987 in Taiwan. So after that, we finally had the freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So at that time, especially in 1990s, a lot of filmmakers they started making documentaries. But that's maybe we can say that the origin of filmmaking, documentary filmmaking in Taiwan. So actually, after like 2000 and till now, there are more and more creative documentaries was produced by filmmakers. But I think there's very tricky things in Taiwan that we don't elect many international co-production is because maybe we have enough filmmaking funds in local. So the local filmmakers, they don't need to, write their proposal in English or submit to the other international fund organization or festival. So, but in recent 5 years, we start a project called Taiwan Docs International Promotion. They start to introduce films to international film festival, and also they help the project to develop bigger and bigger and have opportunity to cooperate with international company. So in recent years, especially for young filmmakers, they can speak English and they know how to catch the opportunity to face overseas. So I think in the future, maybe we will have some real co-production. But actually in local, I think most filmmakers, they always thinking about how to communicate with local audience. So their vision or the audience they really want to talk is not like someone in Japan or Korea. They more concerned about the local subjects. And maybe one day you can say something.
I think that's pretty much my perspective as well. We have around, because we're biennial, and we have a Taiwan competition, which is a local national competition, if we call it that way. We received around 200 every 2 years. That means there are around 200 films, documentary films made in 2 years. But mainly, I would say more than 50% were shorts. And that somehow, I think, I don't have a real statistic proof, but I think that comes from the local fundings, local public sector fundings, like the size of it. So it sort of limits the production in terms of length or the team working for each project. So I think that's one of the reasons why these films are short. And on the other hand, like Ut said, we have this Taiwan Docs project to sort of push all these good works to international audience. But we often find it a little bit difficult to find filmmakers that have the language ability to promote or to talk about their films, but even talk about their project. It's hard for them to explain this to international audience, and I think that's mainly because of the language barrier, and that's something at the moment we haven't found any solution to, because it's very personal choice if they want to do this. We're still trying in this regard, and a bit like Japanese people or Japanese filmmakers, they tend to be a bit shy as well, like introducing themselves, even just that, or to talk about my film. It's still a bit of I guess that's just not the way they socialize with each other, or as in, let's say, Western filmmakers, things like that. Yeah.
It's 200. Okay. Korea, DMZ, Jinseok,
Yeah.
yes?
Yeah, actually, so we handed over a PPT slide. So could you bring the slide up here? Could you help us?
So we have a chart or something, the visual
But
PPT. If it's not, just go ahead, yes.
yeah, I just go ahead. This is very casual. So I would like to share some basic stats and current pictures of South Korean documentary industry. And so in 2020, so we assume that approximately 120 titles were in production. This is based on the number of titles applied for Korean Film Council's production supportings and submissions to festivals. And 47 documentary films were released on theater, and 27 are Korean titles among them. And around 420,000 audiences watched it in total in box office, which means that less than 10,000 audiences watched each titles in theater averagely. So in this, how can I say, environment or situation, so South Korean documentary filmmakers secure funds and resources from mostly national or public organizations such as Korean Film Council, Korean Content Agency, local film commissions and festivals and foundations. And they offer support projects of various size. And besides, crowdfunding has been emerging as a new way of securing funds and potential audiences as well. And I would like to check some pictures of the current landscapes of South Korean documentary filmmaking. Yeah, please, next slide, move to next slide, please. Yeah, right. So, first of all, there is an increase in the number of rising directors who are trained in film schools or universities, like this kind of educational institutes. This is a contrast to the previous ways that most documentary filmmakers have begun their careers as a video activists or self-taught authors. And second is that the variety of directors or artist collectives have formed based on the sexuality, gender, or locality or themes they share. And so, and what else? And we have to note that, and the many directors or producers, mostly new generations of the documentary industry, are seeking global co-production opportunities through film festivals or online platforms recently. And plus, there has been an increase in the number of projects dealing with international subjects or themes or approaches. And the last picture I'd like to mention is that South Korean documentary industry has shown quick response to global and local OTT platforms, online platforms. In South Korea, not only global platforms like Netflix, but also local Korean originated platforms are growing so fast. we see that many creators or directors, producers consider the emergence of OTTs as a new opportunity for in various ways, like securing funding, co-production, overseas expansion, etc. Yeah, I think that's all I can share at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, actually, Korea, yeah, it's very complicated. Yes, like he just mentioned it. Like actually, I think we are in a transition now. Like a next generation and a more like younger next generation. Like the filmmakers and the producers, they are pretty much keen to work with other partners outside Korea. They love to go to try, funds out there. Then like all you guys know, in Korea, we still have a really good source of a resource of like funding from private sectors and then the government sectors as well. So I think we are so far compared to other countries. I think we are in like a little better situation for filmmakers. But actually, the box office and then like a number of the documentaries going to the theater is kind of a very difficult and then a changing situation. So I think we next time we will have time to discuss about this kind of matter. Then next time we have this kind of in the meeting. Next time I think it's a very important issue for us. And then for the Philippines, most productive and then prolific, active country for like a documentary filmmaking. Yes, please, sure. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think we're the most prolific, but I think we have definitely a lot of productions that are ongoing. It's another matter how long we're able to finish the project. So like there might be a lot of Filipino documentary projects in film workshops, markets, etc. But everywhere, yes. But it's another matter whether they're going to finish or when. Anyway, previous to the past couple of years, it would have been very hard to actually talk about the situation of documentary in the Philippines with some definitiveness. A lot of it would be speculative because there's very little information aggregated or institutions or people dedicated in really collecting information. As part of the festival that we launched last year, we also did, which I personally oversaw, a research effort into what documentaries have been done in the past. And so we call it the docu-base, just information. We haven't yet gone to actually collecting the actual films. And it was a big surprise for us because previous to this effort, I'd tell you that there are very few documentaries done every year or that we have a very little like heritage. But in fact, after doing the research and going through institutions that archive, we've actually seen that we were probably very wrong in our previous assumption. Currently, the titles that we've gathered from as early as 1918 number to 1,400 titles, documentaries. Of course, this is an ongoing project, but at the same time, much of this, I guess, and I would really probably speculate, much of this, probably more than 90%, are mostly unreleased and under-distributed. Very little would be really like known publicly. There is, based on the data, there's more production of short documentaries. A lot of them also in the context of advocacy filmmaking, film schools, or entries to experimental and short film festivals from the past decades. Then there's been an increase in the past 10 years. I would say there will be an annual output of more or less 5 features every year, but a big number also of a big number of short documentaries that that has very hard time circulating. I guess the push for in the past 10 years or past 15 years, the push for a bigger number of documentary production was I guess propelled by initiatives that are in partnership with international cultural institutes, like, for example, the workshop in 2010, which is a documentary workshop that was missing for a long time. I think the first was held in early 1990s, and then the second one was held in 2010. And then since then, a lot of documentary filmmakers who were then starting, including myself, got inspiration to do more, because we started to see that there is a community and there's such a thing as a possible path for doing documentaries. So I would say that currently the community is not big, but it's certainly growing steadily. There are challenges, of course. A lot of them are what we see also in other countries in Southeast Asia. For example, there's a very big difficulty in finding funding locally, although there are more funds that are opening up now. But dedicated funding to documentary production is really very hard to come by. So the first impulse for documentary filmmakers, for example, like myself, would be to find immediately within Asia and Southeast Asia for support, and from European and American funds. And then that also, you could actually cluster a number of documentaries that's been released in the past 5 to 10 years that had more exposure abroad than locally. And that's one of the reasons. And then also because there's, as I said, we are probably not the first, because there was the first actually documentary film festival before, but it was not it didn't gain a lot of ground. So for distribution, for example, once a filmmaker is able to produce a film, successfully produce a film, release it in festivals abroad, have a certain degree of success, it's still very hard to find a point to start with in terms of local or national distribution. Very few documentaries really had what we can say like a more mainstream exposure. A lot are still really underseen, underdistributed. Even us, who is now probably what people would think of when we say a Philippine Documentary Festival, we don't know if we're going to exist next year. So that's still precarious. But so we find ourselves cooperating a lot with our neighbors. For example, Indonesia, Docs by the Sea has really been like a home for a lot of Filipino documentary filmmakers. Other initiatives such as the Tokyo Docs, Scholars of Asia, DMZ Docs, of course, has been receiving a lot, I'm sure, a lot of projects from the Philippines. And locally, it's still going to develop, I think, and I hope what our push will not be in vain. Yeah, that's it.
Good. Thank you. Wow. Actually, we have 2 minutes left. Wow, you guys are super good. Okay, everything is in time. Okay. Actually, we got one question from the participant. Actually, the question is about how OTT is changing the face of the documentary film industry. Actually, it's commented by Asako and Jin-seok. But I think the OTT and documentary filmmaking is another topic. We should have like 1 or 2 hours in the talking or something. So I mean, I think it's like we save it for the next time. I think it's time's up. And then it's by 6. So yeah, I mean, it's super good. I mean, everything, it looks really organized and well prepared. Okay, thanks for joining. And it's all good comments and sharing information. Okay, Pierre, was okay?
It was perfect. Thank you very much. It was very well prepared indeed, and very nice. No, thank you seriously very much to all of you. Again, I sincerely think this was really helpful for a lot of filmmakers out there. Hopefully it will create better, stronger connections with all of your festivals. and when we can all travel again, we will be traveling to your festivals, and you will be traveling over here as well. So yeah, thank you very much for giving some of your time. I would like to thank you all, Asako, Woodlin, Wanling Chen, Jewel Maranan, Anita Rezazain, and Jin Sok Kang, and of course Young Woo Kim, and Ellie, who I know is somewhere behind you as well, and Tai Lim, everyone at DMZ Docs. Thank you so much. Over here in Cannes, the festival and market are continuing in a kind of a weird hybrid atmosphere, but it's all good. It's all good. We are all okay wherever we are, and the show must go on for documentary film and film in general. So it is all good and perfect. Thank you so very much to all of you. Thank you to all of you who attended this session today. I saw that we had a nice attendance both through our platform and on the YouTube channel of DMZ Docs, so that's nice. Hoping to see you all soon somewhere, and wishing you all the best with your festivals. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. See you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be well. Take care. Bye.